Yeah, we'll get it all figured out. Okay, so is this everybody? Got more people here today. I'm excited for this. Does anybody want to go over anything that we talked about last week? Just the progressions of like the floor ball stuff, going from basically like super rehabby based to more strength based. Y'all all go with just looking at the recording from last time if you want to revisit that? Okay, cool. So today, let's see, I know I'm not in this. I want to go through like half kneeling and full kneeling progressions of like controlling the stack. I know Austin is going to have some stuff to participate or give little nuggets here. We do a lot of this stuff, I think, pretty regularly. And then anybody else, TJ, I'm sure you've got like some cool little Pilates mindset stuff that'll really apply to what we're about to do. So I want everybody to like share their ideas as we go through this. I just kind of want to get right into just doing the stuff. So I want everybody to get a very manageable weight for what you would shoulder press with. And we're going to start there. So this would be like a single arm shoulder press, something like super manageable, but something that would like make you work a little bit. So everybody acquire your weight, whatever that is.
Acquire me a weight, bro.
Yeah. Whether it's 10, 15, 5, 7, doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be a kettlebell or a dumbbell. It can be whatever, but everybody needs a weight. And then we're all going to be on the wall at some point, but right now we'll just be like here. And I'm going to reposition the camera once we get it all going.
I'm going to skip out on this part if you don't mind because I have the kettlebell course tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
I'm trying not to be.
That's cool. I do want you to like help people position and stuff because I know you know all about the stackies.
So hungry. I'm more about the snackies right now.
Dude, I get it. I get it. I have some cronut donut holes if you want something sweet.
I'm actually supposed to be in a deficit right now. Big turkey, bro.
Okay, so for right now, you guys are all going to be, I want everybody lined up on 2 knees, just double kneeling position. Whatever weight you want to start with, grab it. Those of you with bigger weights, I'll pray for you. We'll see how this goes.
We didn't do this how many reps we were doing, so I was like, oh, maybe it's like 2 or 3.
I said super manageable, something that shouldn't be too taxing. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, so do y'all know what the stack is? If as I use that verbiage, does anybody not know what I mean by that? Rib cage pelvis stack. Yeah, on top of each other. So there's a couple different ways that I think the stack gets misinterpreted. It's not just like these things are visibly on top of each other, because some people like might look stacked from the side. Like this is what a lot of us would think is unstacked, but just looking on top doesn't necessarily mean you're stacked. So if I pull my shirt in here, you can see that I got a lot of rounding in my back. All this is not like looking too great. I'm a little bit lifted in my chest. I could probably make this better. So when we try to stack, we want to think pelvis is neutral. Ribs, lower ribs are relatively kind of in line with the front anterior aspect of the pelvis. And there is probably going to be some kind of low-level core engagement just sitting there. And then from here, we want to try to get somewhat tall in the spine. So we're going to play with that right off the bat. Cool? For some of y'all, it's going to be really weird. So let's go no weight for a second. Set those on the ground. We're just going to go through stacky things. Legs a little more narrow. I'm going to be really picky with knees right under hips because some of us cheat with wider stances. Some of y'all just bringing your knees in is going to feel super awkward. We're just going to go with it. So for right now, I want y'all to all, do y'all want to turn sideways so you can see yourself in the mirror so you can figure this out? I know some of y'all kind of know what you're doing already. So hands on the hips. I want everybody to throw themselves into like super heavy anterior tilt. Like sling it, dump it forward. Give yourself like the 13-year-old girl middle school butt. Like just flip it forward. Then from there, tuck it under as hard as you possibly can. Squeeze your ass, clench it, go as far as you can. Most people don't even achieve like neutral pelvis, so I want y'all to really exaggerate pelvis tucking underneath you. I want you to genuinely think about your tailbone going down to the floor and then dragging the earth underneath you. Like you need to think about somehow yanking that thing down and under. As weird as that needs to be for right now, just make it happen. Then flip it back into anterior tilt. So now from here, with the anterior tilt super forward, I want all of y'all to lift your ribs up with it. We're getting weird right now. Just let it happen. So everything's super lifted, super open on the front. Now close ribs and pelvis as much as you can while staying lifted in your chest. This is going to get like super unnatural. So just, so tuck, ribs down, trying to keep chest up. It's like the most unnatural, ugly thing ever right now. This should not feel right. And then exaggerate it again. Flip it the other way. Flip the tail up and back, dump the pelvis forward, let everything on the front just come up. And then tuck, lower ribs come down, sternum tries to stay up for now. And then y'all just relax for a second. So we're gonna do that one more time, crazy opposite one way, crazy opposite the other, and now y'all should be able to settle in more of a neutral a little bit easier. Anytime I'm teaching somebody how to find this for the first time, exaggerate the hell out of it to get them to know what middle could be. There's no specific, super perfect what you're going for. You just need someone to look more neutral than where they probably started. Okay? Y'all good so far? Okay. So everybody hands on the hips again. We'll do this quickly. Dump it forward. Lift the chest. Open everything on the front, almost as if you're trying to like stretch your core on the front. Now tuck the pelvis. Drop the front ribs, but try to keep the sternum a little bit lifted. And then from here, I want y'all to settle into what could be somewhere in the middle. So the pelvis is like kind of relaxed and neutral underneath you. Ribs shouldn't feel tucked back. They shouldn't feel lifted. They're just resting in the middle. From here, I want everybody to imagine there's a little string on the back of your skull that's very lightly lifting your head up. That does not mean you retract your jaw or your neck. All that means is you try to get longer through the top of your head. So TJ, just because I saw you do it, bring your head forward a little. And it's almost like this right here, just trying to go like a little bit up. Yeah. It's just enough to feel like there's a little decompression. So anytime you ever cue anybody to try to get longer and taller through their spine, less intensity is better, less dramatic shift is better. You just need to feel enough shift that you actually got a little longer or a little decompressed. Does anybody not know what I mean by those things as far as that little longer feeling or that decompressed feeling? Because we can talk about that a little bit in this position. Good? Okay. So from here, if you guys keep your hands on your hips, find what could be your neutral. So you got that, what feels like could be neutral pelvis, rib cage relatively centered on top of your pelvis. If you need to be sideways and see it, do what you got to do. Now from here, I want you guys to push your hands into your hips, like directly into your hips. And I want you to reach your elbows out to your sides. So you're attempting to go in with your hands and out with your elbows. Another way to think about that is your armpits are trying to go sideways a little bit as your hands go into your hips. If you get that right, it's going to feel like there's this weird, almost like nervy, fascial armpit shift feeling for some of you if you're really tight. It could be a lot of neck and trap stuff. This is gentle. You're just trying to widen up top, and there's a little compression at the hips. Okay? So y'all just live here for a second. I want you to bring your ribs down just a little. Bring your elbows forward a little. There you go. You're good here. You look so pretty. Okay, Kim, you're going to be a little bit farther here. Tuck your butt just a hair more, like the micro tuck. The micro is tuck. Okay. Elbows a little more forward. And now everybody think about their collarbones going to the sides. How would you try to widen your collarbones right and left? It's a really weird feeling to try to get. Your elbows will move, your shoulders will probably move a little bit. I'm just trying to get you guys to widen up top right now, because a lot of us are really super compressed up high. From here, keep pressure on your hip bones, and I want you to super slow, super soft inhale into your armpits and chest. Just feel how this pressure on the hips and this wide feeling across the shoulders changes how air gets up high. As you exhale, put a little bit of pressure in your hands on your hips, like 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 pressure. Inhale, feel for wide collarbones, wide shoulders, weird air bubble up high. exhale a little bit of pressure in the hands. For some of you, it's going to get weird. You're going to feel tingly, weird things in weird places.
I feel a little nauseous. Just ate though. I just ate.
Okay, that's a whole different thing.
Just great food.
Yeah. Okay,
Sweating away.
got the meat sweats already. Okay, y'all following so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so all I'm trying to get you guys to do, get you to feel at this point, is what this like high upper expansion should feel like, or at least you should kind of know what it's like to actually expand up like in this high chest, high armpit area. Because a lot of us, it's like most people that I see have this really weird version of some type of like high compression, whether it's a chest wall that's dropped, whether they're just all trappy, and it's like everything up high is just stuck. So if we can get them to widen up high and with a proper stack, that should expand a lot of little things kind of naturally as long as they can breathe relatively comfortably. Austin, you have anything to add to that? Cool, as long as it's about right. Okay. So cool. So from here, now we're going to try to find a little bit more core in that position, and then we're going to get the dumbbell. So we're going to pick up right where we left off. If anybody needs to recheck pelvic tilt stuff, find your anterior crazy, posterior crazy, find neutral. If you need to throw your ribs around with it and just kind of wiggle it all around, get a little twerk going, and then restack it, do what you got to do. And if you're not sure, tell me, I'll help you find it.
Not sure.
Cool. Scott, are you even in here? Yeah, you're here. Cool.
Because I don't really have very much anterior.
Okay, so where do you think neutral is?
Where do I think it is?
Yeah.
Maybe like in there somewhere.
Okay, cool. So from here, let's think the web of your hand here. Put a little bit of pressure straight into your sides. And then I want you to elevate your collarbones just the tiniest bit. Not your chest. Like a little baby shrug. Okay, now from here, it's like your armpits are kind of trying to float up slightly and then to go wider. Now, if you can manage that, this little webbing pressure here should help this open. And then you're trying to feel for a little tiny baby air bubble coming up into here as you take a gentle inhale.
Is that it?
I don't think that was it.
Oh.
So, there you go. Then a little exhale. This, you never lose this hand pressure. Find this inhale again. It's super soft and slow and maybe deeper than you think. And you need to feel like there's a little something like coming either anterior, posterior, maybe even more lateral.
Got it.
But your stack looks good. I don't think you need to worry about that. I think for you, it's more just getting this conscious feeling of expansion up in the thoracic.
Okay, don't move.
Don't move. Live there forever.
Okay.
When everybody's supposed to live in the middle, but you live here, you're going to feel like, I don't have a lot of movement. Well, it's because you're already at the limit. Yeah. So when you're trying to get more of a restored piece, so you've got space to swing in each direction instead of living so close to one that you run into it really fast, and to get the opposite, it feels like a huge jump to go back the other way. So
Cool. No, I got the tail end of that, but I'm
Yeah.
just trying to sneak in
we were
there.
just talking about.
I'm just tired from trying to
Yeah, you know, it's tricky. It's really hard. I mean, it's tricky. Okay, so from here, I didn't even cue you guys to feel core while you're in that position. I just cued you to breathe right there, right? That was all we got to? Okay, so real quick, let's go back to it. How we doing on time? Yeah, okay. So find your initial stack. What could be, some of you are going to need to tuck more. Some of you are going to feel super, super awkward. So somewhat neutral pelvis, somewhat feeling of the rib cage centered on top of your hips. A little bit of pressure, hands in the sides. I just gave Scott a different cue here. The webbing of your index finger thumb, push the webbing into your hip bone on the side. That may give you a different feeling, just in case. You'll feel something a little different if you actually push through that. It's just a weird neurological connection. We don't need to go into that right now. Okay, Kim, you got to drop your chest a little bit, chest bone, sternum, a little. Yep, elbows forward a little. There you go. Okay, from here, everybody take a very slow, very soft inhale, trying to find a air bubble that gets up into your chest and upper back. Do that at your own pace. Very gentle through the nose. Find your bubble. Feel it swell up into your upper back and upper chest, not your neck. Just exhale it when you're ready. And then we'll do that again whenever you're ready. Inhale, soft air bubble into upper back and upper chest. You're still wide in your elbows and wide in your shoulders. Exhale again. Now I'm going to give you the core cue. So take that inhale again, just like you did, and hold it. As you have that breath held right now, stay as tall as you can and just exhale out enough through your mouth to feel your lower ribs start to drop down. Yeah. So you get to that inflated position, and I want you guys, this is super, you got to be really mindful here on what you're doing. You exhale just enough to feel the ab wall on the front get a little tight from the exhale. You're not feeling for ribs being yanked down. You're not feeling for your chest being pulled down. You're just feeling for when the exhale itself has triggered a little tiny bit of abs. Does that make sense? If you're tall enough, the exhale should have to work a little bit to get that down. Some of you might not feel it because you're already there. Like, I don't expect you to feel much. A little bit? Okay, y'all following so far? Trying? So, this is like, in terms of like 1 to 10 core, 10 being like you're trying to make your core like rip off the bone, it's working so hard, 1 being like you're trying to sleep. This should feel like a 2 or a 3. Like, this is like awareness of abs. Just long, tall awareness of abs. And we need that when we go into this shoulder thing. Because a lot of people, when they start thinking overhead, they start thinking pressing, they just bear down. And then you go from a nice tall spine to compressed into flexion, or what looks tall, but you're actually yanked into extension. So we're trying to find decompressed and tall. Cool? All right. So do y'all want to just grab the weights and go for it now? Austin, you have any little nuggets there?
Now, is anybody feeling like something gets really fatigued and you feel like you shouldn't be getting really fatigued?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's you'll have people, if you ever try to coach somebody, like really coach somebody through this who's like super out of whack, you'll hear like hamstring cramp, groin cramp, lower back spasms. They'll be like, do you see them rolling their neck a lot because they don't know what it's like to actually get out of their neck, or the muscles that breathe are not breathing and the muscles that breathe for them are not the right muscles, or like going crazy. Like, it's just a weird mess of shit. So people get weird.
I think feeling your adductors for someone like yourself is probably kind of normal, because they got to let go a little bit if you
Yeah.
want that pelvis to come back to something more neutral out of your normal.
If you just to piggyback off the adductor thing, some people when they're learning this, you'll notice they look like they're going to fall forward a lot. Put a dumbbell, put something on their feet while they're here to anchor their feet to the ground. Or you can just set your hands on their heels while they're learning it. And if you have somebody very lightly pull their heels against your hands, it may pull them into their neutral pelvis a little better. Okay, so grab your dumbbell. Let's do this for real. So I want everybody to do this on your right hand for now. Actually, let's do left, just because camera's here, it'll look better. Get all y'all synchronized. So try to find your stack right now with the weight in your left hand, however you want to do it. Find your tilt, find your tuck, find what could be that stacked rib cage. For right now, whatever's most comfortable with your feet. If that's toes down, if that's toes up, feet laid out, however you want to do it. I just want y'all to be able to achieve what could be some stackage. Scott, you already lost yours. Okay, so if you think you've got your stack and you think you're good, I want y'all to just take a breath in. Inhale your entire thoracic body with air. So ribs, chest, armpits, back, feel a bubble come through your whole upper body, just for a second. Now flex your core just a little, and then relax, but keep your core. However you can. Keep your core, and now take one more breath and see if you can find that breath into what could be more of your backside, like mid upper back, low back, anything back. just feel for a breath that goes backwards. Exhale, keep your core, take one more breath, find a breath in your back in some way, shape, or form. Once you have that, bring your left arm up. We're going to get real picky with 90-degree elbows, elbows pointed forward. For those of you with heavier weight, this is going to be extra spicy real quick. So from here, keep every bit of your stack. Take your right hand and lay it across your lower ribs, right arm across lower ribs. Push straight up through your palm and your elbow, and do not let your ribs go forward at all. And see how high you can actually go with your shoulder, and then bring it back down. As you come down, reset whatever you may have lost, refine all the core, find the stack, find it all. And then as you push up, you only push up as high as you can until you feel like your ribs are actually going forward into your hands, if they are. We're trying to catch where we cheat. And then we come down. Yeah, so if you're, most people, like 10 to 15 pounds learning this is like plenty.
Just for the position.
Yeah, just for the position. Finding it? I think your shoulders move pretty good already, don't they? Yeah, you look good.
Do I?
Yeah. How hard are you clenching your butt?
Pretty hard.
Okay, try to relax your butthole.
Oh gosh.
That is on recording for everybody. So as we're going through this, yeah, I want y'all to just practice this at this point. So like, how stable can your hips be? How stable can your rib cage be? And let the shoulder and arm just glide up. Your scapula, your collarbone, everything in your shoulder should just glide up and come down. Yes. So that's probably good there and there. Okay. I'm gonna hold you right here. Okay. Start to push. Okay, not bad. And come down. Yep. So I'm gonna hold you from the front here a little bit more, just so you can feel it. Okay. Go. Yeah, that's good. That's not bad. That's really good.
I was like, I don't think it's moving, but I can't tell.
No, that's good. Let's see. Let me put my hands on you. I'm gonna be right here. Yeah.
I mean, that's not really all the like true shoulder flexion.
Yeah. So take a start. I'm gonna hold you right here for a second, so you have a little ease. Try to find a breath that could feel as though like an awareness breath up into your back. Maybe if you can find something up in here. And I'm helping you, so you don't have to worry about this as much. Once you feel like you have a little bit more air through here, maybe even like down here, hold your core to help stabilize you, but keep this feeling of being tall and long in your body, and then push up. Just seeing if it changes anything. But I mean, as far as position goes, you're pretty good. You're really honest with your shoulder flexions. That's good. So, I think it's safe to say some of you probably noticed how your shoulder flexion is super limited. So it's super, super common for people to, when they're stacked properly, you'll see like a roadblock, like 120, 130? Yeah. And they'll just go and they'll be like, and they just won't go. So all that means is lighter weight, more repetition to keep it simple before you start thinking like little minute details of where is their ER, is there relative motion at the elbow and wrist, blah, blah, blah. Y'all don't need to think about that. But if you get a proper stack, and so you can teach somebody to focus on a smooth stacked torso, or a soft, how little can you try to stay stacked? It's probably a better way to think about that. And then the shoulder and arm need to glide up and down. I like to use words like that because it paints a picture of less tension. I think a lot of the times when we're training people, we just brace up, wrench it, and go for it. But if you're really trying to be restorative in anybody's motion, you gotta like give them cues that sound like something that will encourage motion. Sometimes if you just tell somebody like brace your core and push through your hand, that's and they just lock up. So like paint a picture with your words that could seem a little less intensive or a little less intensity if you're trying to free something up. This type of stuff is really good as like warm up, and then just go right into your regular stuff. Like I don't think it's very practical for a lot of us to try to go ultra restorative and ultra like mobility based biomechanic mindset when we're teaching our clients this. But just to get a good, like if it's bench, you can apply some of this to like an incline bench. You can apply it to any shoulder press. But just start people off this way, maybe like 1 round of it, like maybe 2 rounds in your warm-ups, and then just go into your regular training. And then use similar cues as you're going through to remind them throughout your regular workout.
How would you progress them? Would you work on mobility things for different areas, or would you progress them with that exercise?
A little bit of both, depending on what's going on. So, like for example, like Bryson hit I think TJ too. You guys hit a pretty hard roadblock at like 120, 130. So I know you're strong enough to just work with it. I don't think either of you guys have like really nasty joint shoulder issues, right? You have a bad shoulder, don't you? Yeah. So it could be something as simple as just regress your weight and actually let me see your dumbbell real quick. So for some people, as they're going through this, like for me, like my initial sets of this, I mean, that's where I stop. I mean, it just runs out. But if you just kind of think like stay light and just keep pumping it through, you'll kind of start to feel like tissue just starts to glide more and things will just start to warm up, and you can just encourage range of motion to increase that way. You don't need to get ultra picky. If they've got like hard stops and pinching joints and stuff like that, same stack mechanic can be applied to like a seated supported bench or incline bench or like back supported shoulder press. You know, rather than being at 90 degrees, if they don't have that, tilt them back 1 notch on the bench. So that way you can meet them where they're at with their actual capacity of motion. Almost nobody that, genuinely, almost nobody that I work with comes in with full vertical range of motion. Almost nobody has it. So if I do shoulders with stuff, y'all probably noticed I do a lot of incline shoulder, like incline bench work with my clients. 90% of my intent with them is shoulder girdle range of motion. And I just put them in a position where I know they got it. And then if I just cue them a little bit, I gradually increase their inclines over time. And it just kind of works out, as long as they're mindful enough to listen to me when I talk. And that's a super easy hack for that.
I think a very practical, like, that's instead of, some people just, they're not willing to do 20 straight minutes of some shoulder focused mobility thing, and they just care about, let me move some weight, you know? And so, I mean, maybe you guys see me do my high incline press in here, and it's partially because it feels good. I can move some heavy weight with it, so I like that for my ego, but also it's the most vertical press I can do that doesn't cause me a problem. It's the closest to my true overhead range of motion that I can access, and just by getting stronger there, I'm able to put more weight up in my straight overhead press, which I don't train at all, because I'm spending most of my time at a range that I do have control over. So like he was saying, if you have a client and you just watch them and you lay them on the ground and you bend their knees so they were flat in like a hook line position, and you have them reach and they can get to here before something like this starts and before they feel any hard stops or any pinching, then you've got a good angle here. We're looking, when he's describing these 120s, 130s, he's talking about this angle between my midline and my upper arm, okay? So, you know, if it could do that, that'd be 180, right? But it can't. I probably have about 140, something like that, you know, maxed out.
You get a sexy 150.
Hell yeah. So, I choose an angle that's similar to that. And it's also good to know that although the stack might be optimal as far as joint range of motion is concerned and giving you movement availability, it's not necessarily going to lead to your highest performance in something either, right? If you look at any of the highest performers in the world, they're usually not stacked, you know? Some of the best swimmers got some pretty serious kyphosis. Some of the best sprinters have some serious anterior tilt, flat feet, weird stuff like that. Someone might tell you that flat feet like mine are a problem. They're not pretty, but it's a strategy, you know? My body found a way to put force into the floor real quick by putting the midfoot down, right? So we're giving you these baselines so you give your client as many options for movement as possible, but that doesn't mean that's the only way they're allowed to move forever. Amen, right? You don't want to be like the chiro that says
Neutral spot.
forever, because we know that even the best physios, PTs, trainers, and chiros can look at you deadlift and say there was 5 degrees of spinal flexion, and then we put you under fluoroscopy like a live x-ray and there's 35 degrees of spinal flexion that you can't see, and that's okay, right? So a practical application for improving someone's overhead positioning, like we're talking about, find an angle that they can maintain. Drag hip hinge, if you do the best, replicate that the best. Put them here. Now, right now I'm chasing strength. Right now I'm chasing strength on my high incline press because I want to beat Andre on the board for overhead press. So I'm allowing my stack to break, right? I'm tipping my chest back. That gives me a little bit more range of motion through here, lines my pecs up, all that good stuff. But if my goal, and I do this on my back offsets, is to increase my shoulders range of motion over time, then I just restore my stack by elevating my feet, taking that stretch away from my hip flexors and my legs being reached down, and then I'm right here, and I take a long exhale that's not super forceful, and that gets me a lot more stack between these two, right? And then you'll see, I can't go much higher than that now, where I could before. And then I can work a little bit less weight, but really this is my true shoulder range of motion. So that's gonna help me over time, right? If I can get strong right at the border of what I'm capable of, that border slowly moves in the direction that I want it to. And you just do the same kind of thing with a pulling motion. And I think the pulling motions might be even better sometimes because then you get some kind of loaded lat stretch going on. For a lot of people, the lat might be a limiter for them. There's other capsular and positional stuff, but it would be the same kind of thing. If you know they can only reach to here, I don't think giving them a straight up pull up is really going to help them. It might make their pull up stronger. It might put some mass on their back, right? If that's their goal, and that's great, but that doesn't mean that's the only way you can train them. Maybe you do 2 sets of warm up with a cable pull at an angle that's really close to what they've already demonstrated, and you use something like a bench and a blue pad to brace their belly so they can't arch away and create fake range of motion. And then you tell them, keep your forearm the same angle as the cable pull and pull like that and allow it to stretch you out without breaking your stack. And it's not gonna be their max weight, we get that, but it can give them a pretty good pump, can give them pretty good stretch. It's gonna show them where they actually have their range of good control. And then if they still want to do chin-ups and that's something they want to go train them on chin-ups. But I guarantee you, if you've got one of these kind of people, as soon as you hang them up there, they look like this. And that's fine. I can still do a pull-up like that. Like I do a lot of them like that. But it's probably not going to add to their shoulder range of motion over time as well as it could. So for some it will, but some people it won't. So.
Just a quick little super, I don't know, with the last couple of weeks, you know, I talked about the PSIS on the back and then the upper back space, like the rhomboid space for as far as like the ground-based stuff, finding that. When Austin was here, I'm going to use you again real quick. Just because it was, let's say right here with the feet on, I like to, I'm going to around your back. So like for some people, this is me personally. You can do this however you want. But if someone's laying down, they're doing like an incline press from here, and you're trying to get just, you know, get the basic stack, get it to look pretty while they're doing this, but they keep arching a lot. I've been using more of that like PSIS cue or back of the pelvis on the rest cue, and that seems to, if they can figure out this, to get behind you real quick, if you can take these little bony knobs on the back of the pelvis here, maybe rub them on your client so they can feel what they are, and get them to just take those knobs and just push them, just hold them against your pad. Don't cue them to tuck or tilt, just get them to touch them and feel them there. And then what I've been trying to get is people just to feel the upper rhomboid stuff just resting on the pad as they go up and down. And if they can just keep those spots touching, that will auto-correct some of the little movement that they may be cheating through that they might not know of. Then you don't have to cue somebody to brace as much. You don't have to cue somebody maybe as much, but of course you have to teach them where those spots are. It seems like, this is me personally, it seems like the more I cue somebody on where the big bony stuff is in space, they find stuff better. So if the pelvis can stay there and that's not moving, that's going to probably, they will naturally resist the urge to extend their spine or collapse into flexion. The space up here on the upper back, if they're up in the air, so go and put your arms up real quick. A lot of people, once they start pushing, like if he's reaching like this, reach up, you naturally are going to have a little bit of like kyphosis and rounding there. So all I want is someone to feel that area touch, just touch. If they can keep that touching as they go down with their arms and go up, they'll maintain a little bit of that natural curvature, which should give their scapulas more to ride on and should kind of limit how much extension they potentially naturally fall into. Because a lot of people, when they're coming down with anything or they're loading into something in a bottom motion, whether it's a press or like the concentric action of a row, they go into they just wrench into extension. But if you can get somebody to have awareness of what it's like to maybe sort of keep that little bit of rhomboid back, that little bit of ribs back, that little bit of thoracic curvature, you'll have more to ride on naturally, and things will free up a little bit more. It's a different way of cueing it, but I like cueing the big bony segments as much as I can. For some people, it goes a long way. For others, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So pick your battles. But I just wanted to throw that out there, just because I've talked about those on the last few things. So if y'all go back and watch these, I just want to keep those cues going. I think they're useful. Cool? Yep. Awesome. Okay, so we haven't done any half kneeling stuff yet, right? Okay, so this is where I want to use everybody up on the wall here. So we're going to all get into, I think I've seen Austin do this before. I think TJ, maybe I've seen you do this before too. We're going to be half kneeling. Let's say the left knee is going to be forward, your left hand is going to be on the wall, and then you're going to have your dumbbell in your right hand. That's where I want everybody to get right now. I think we have enough wall space. Do you ever do, Austin, have you done like the rotational opening of?
Doing like this kind of thing earlier, but not the kind you're talking about.
Yeah.
No.
I know Eric Cressy does this thing where he gets you to twist into it and come out of it. I haven't been through it, so I don't know.
That thing I was doing here is for the same area of the like shoulder blade glide on the scaps.
Yeah.
The scaps glide on ribs, but his is loadable and mine's more of a stretch.
Gotcha.
Everyone wore black, so.
Yeah, everybody's invisible. All we see is the word Dallas across everybody's back. All right, so see how this goes. This is hilarious. TJ is so much larger than everybody else. It's on the 0.5 lens too, so it's like fish-eyed, and he's the closest one. Okay, so I want everybody to try to find what could be the stack thing right now. So TJ, your hips need to scoot more forward. Like I would actually pick up your bottom knee and scoot it forward. Everybody else looks good, looks good. Bring your knee forward just a little bit, Sam. Tiny little bit. Okay. All right, so yeah, so for some people, just getting in this position properly will stretch the quad. If that's somebody that you work with, I would keep notes. Okay, so from here, I want everybody's left hand on the wall to put just enough pressure in the wall that it feels like it shifts your thoracic spine backwards or your upper back back. A basic broad pressure in the wall to just push your center of mass backwards, just a little. And all you need to do is feel that you shifted like a millimeter. That's all I need you to do. Y'all got it? So now bring your dumbbell up. Now think about where, I'm going to come by and rub everybody's back. I want all of y'all to be mindful of where your lower rib cage is on your back right now. And now, as you guys go to do your shoulder press, if you start to lose your lower rib cage position, push the wall a little more with your hand. And y'all can start to do your shoulder press. And just go as high as you can, then come back down. I do want you guys to get some type of inhale or exhale up. I don't really care how you breathe. And I do think it's good to have the cue in your mind of truly putting your palm up into the handle of your weight. Your palm is a hydraulic press that lifts your weight. You go as high as you can, but don't lose your hand push against the wall. You guys can go a little faster if you want. If you go super slow, it's just absolutely brutal. But I just want y'all to have a different orientation of how you can play with this. This gets a little bit more range of motion into the hip flexors. It changes some little dynamics in the pelvis. It's going to keep somebody much more engaged in their core naturally. All right, y'all good here? Y'all can shake it out. So, if a little sneaky, I'm assuming everybody has clients with neck issues, neck pain, neck tension, right? So if you want to help somebody open up trap tension, upper scalene tension, get them to learn how to release that same position you just did, have them look away from the dumbbell as they go up. If y'all want to try it real quick, or whoever wants to, you should feel like you have more, like a very gentle head turn away from your weight as you go up. And all this does, it just creates a little sneaky range of motion in the neck. The trick is that you don't let anything else in the body move, and it's like as your arm is achieving maximal length, your head is going into the end of its rotation. It's a gentle head turn, but it just gets a little bit of lengthening across some of the high cervical muscles. If you have somebody turn towards the weight, it'll stretch the other side of the neck a little bit, but it's kind of not as user-friendly. If they just look away from it, it seems to autocorrect a few things. A little bit of that goes a long way. Cool? Any nuggets?
On the breathing stuff, and again, I usually just use this when I'm trying to warm up someone or increase a little bit of range of motion or have them feel something better. As a general rule of thumb, it's not applicable to every movement, but a lot of movements. Your inhales increase space, right? When I inhale, my diaphragm descends, right? It sinks down. It opens space up in like the pelvic floor. It creates little motions down in the pelvis. So for things like squats and deadlifts, if we're not looking at like maximal loading, because that's not what, if you want to increase range of motion, it's not going to happen with maximal loading, right? Use your inhales. So like frequently if someone's having problems descending past about 90 degrees on a squat, and we've kind of done all the basic stretchy stuff, you elevate their heels, you give them a front plate reach, something that evens out their center of mass so they can sink down and not feel like they're falling in either direction. You start with a long, slow inhale and not a lot of tension with it, right? Because like he said before, tension is going to reduce movement options. That's why we naturally, when we pick stuff up, go, because that tension, that Valsalva, that bear down reduces movement options, which is what you want if you just want to pick something up once and not have anything go awry, right? But if I'm trying to access some new spaces, using your breath gently can be very beneficial for that. Typically people with narrower frames have problems hinging. Something about their structures makes it harder to tip the pelvis over and sink it back that way. But if you can get them to inhale, their diaphragm gently moves down to the base of their pelvis, and you're not going to see this, but it happens. Moves some guts down into the basin of the pelvis, they can shift it back a little further than maybe did before, right? And the opposite would be true of your exhales. Your exhales typically are going to bring tension more than your inhales. They're going to reduce movement options or sometimes bias you towards internal rotation with more of an exhale than an inhale. Am I right on that? Yeah. So your exhales normally, when do we tell people to exhale? At the most basic level, you just took your training cert, when do we exhale? On the concentric, right? The effort. most of our positions, overcoming the squat, overcoming gravity in squat, coming up out of the bottom of a deadlift hinge, pushing out of the bottom of a bench press, those are the positions in those movements where we need access to the most internal rotation. Internal rotation is where we do most of our overcoming of gravity. We exhale, we find more, we create tension, we reduce movement options with that tension, we can lift better. That's why it happens, right? That's why they kind of suggest those things. But it's not an end-all be-all, right? So if I'm gonna do breathing squat sets of 20, I'm probably not gonna bear down and hold my breath on every rep because it's just gonna suck.
Just to piggyback off of that real quick, there's two areas if you're trying to get your breath to help increase range of motion, there's also like a conscious awareness of where somebody might be holding tension to help you get the most out of it. There's two big pockets of tension that I find a lot of people have that they don't know they have. People their glutes are always flexed. Deep hip capsule stuff is always tight. So the breathing cues work well, but they might not work well enough if the person doesn't have awareness into their glutes actually being somewhat relaxed while they're doing it. So if somebody's trying to squat and you're trying to get them to inhale on the descent and exhale on the up, but they don't know how to relax their glutes, it doesn't really work as well. So you may need to like come up to your client, poke them in the butt, or maybe do a little foam roll on the glute or whatever it is, and get them to like poke themselves in the butt. Like, does it feel tight? A little bit. Then okay, relax your ass. Like, let go. Like, there's a lot of tight butt people. I literally have some clients who you can poke them in the butt. Now, let's say glute. Let's get more specific here. Yeah. Like in the meaty part of the glute. Don't take that the wrong way.
Like the same place they might give you a shot if you went to the hospital.
Yeah,
Side upper glute area.
But I find there's a lot of people. It's like it's really like right in the back of the cheek. They're just tight there. A lot of people will complain of piriformis syndrome and all that stuff, and it's so misdiagnosed it's not even worth going into. But they just need to learn to relax their cheeks. Like, relax your butt. Like, everyone's a tight ass these days. Everyone's a tight ass these days. You got to learn to let it go. So I'll get off. Yeah, lots of clenching. Yeah, like, bro, you're just sitting there like working. You don't need to like pucker while you're there. Secondary thing, which is trickier for people to find, the back of the shoulder. I find a lot of people are actually just tight there and don't know it. So it's kind of weird, but if someone's doing a shoulder press or any kind of pressing motion specifically, the back of the capsule of the shoulder is what's usually taking the most load when you're pushing. Just because that's where it's going. It's going like the load is going in the back of the joint. But if you want to try to get range of motion, you're in that sub-maximal capacity and you're trying to get things to move, it's weird, but you almost want to have them like you can touch the back of their shoulder and be like, slightly think about your shoulder being like, relax your rotator cuff or relax your joint a little as you're going down. I like to use the cues, let your hands catch the weight and let your shoulders glide. And if you can get them to feel what it's like for a shoulder to start to release and glide a little bit, you'll get a lot of little relative range of motion that comes from it. It's picky on how you want to do it. For some people, the shoulder thing doesn't go a long way. But those are two little areas that I find a lot of people, like the breathing stuff doesn't work on its own unless you give them a little extra awareness to those areas. So back of the shoulder, back of the glute, relax your butt cheeks, all that good stuff. Cool? I think it's time. Oh, y'all are sweet. All right, I'll upload the video tonight. We can rewatch this.